Welcome to the Travis Masterbone podcast. I am your host, Travis Masterbone, talking some shit to impact your life. This is episode 20, titled Thomas Shelby and Confidence. Quote, I think, Arthur, that's what I do. I think, so you don't have to. End quote. Thomas Shelby from the show Peaky Blinders. This was a scene where he was really establishing himself and his place within the family and the gang, Peaky Blinders, this Irish gang in Birmingham. And Arthur is his loose cannon brother who was losing his composure, pressing Tommy and Tommy's decisions regarding business. And so Tommy, as always, kept his composure and puts Arthur in his place, showing the utmost confidence in his decision-making when it comes to money and the family. And we see this throughout the entire series. It is an amazing show. If you haven't seen it, please hop on it. You are really out of the loop. But, deep down this quote, it put Arthur in his place, but it really made me think like, man, I understand Thomas Shelby is a fictional character, but I think there's a lot of episodes, scenes, and observations and takeaways that we can apply in our real world in regards to confidence. I think it's important for everybody to develop some sense of healthy self-esteem and confidence. My last episode about narcissism, I was talking about Aristotle's golden mean, with narcissism being an extreme on one end, egoism on the other, low self-esteem. And I couldn't find that word in the middle, but I think just overall healthy self-esteem and confidence, and maybe just little tactics to help improve that, could be something that's applicable here. So it's nice to just kind of keeping the train rolling along these lines and this topic and get a little bit more philosophical on it. But, his Thomas Shelby, his habits, and he's not the only character in here that shows a high level of confidence, but my observations, I believe we can adapt them in our daily lives, and the psychology is real. It doesn't have to be as extreme as this razor blade gang leader and the situations that he is put in, which plenty of those situations, I would definitely be shitting my pants if I was actually put into those situations. So it's all relative, obviously, and I'll get into that in a second. But overall, let's just Google it. Confidence, the feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something. Firm trust, a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities and qualities. And so with the development of confidence, for me personally, I remember in middle school and maybe even around high school, the beginning of high school, the only place I really, truly displayed honest, genuine confidence was on the basketball court. That to me was my comfort zone. I didn't really have a lot of it in social settings or in the classroom with schoolwork. So in that sense, confidence could be applied in so many different aspects of life. And so I'm just going to be very general today and just kind of go over some basic tips. I was kind of browsing through YouTube on what other people thought about Thomas Shelby and some of the things that he does that displays confidence and why he was so successful in the show. Again, obviously, I know this is just a show and entertainment, but again, I think we can pull some things away and apply it in our lives. But the main thing that I would say, there's a thin line between confidence and cockiness, and I'm sure we all have different opinions and examples of, where that line can be drawn in certain actions, and it's all about situations too and who's observing it. But for the most part, I would say the main takeaway is confidence is an actual, true, genuine display of something that you know, and cockiness is a bit more loud, flamboyant, I would say more talking, less doing, in a nutshell, if I were to try to separate these two. But one of the main things that I've noticed Thomas Shelby does, along with other characters and along with really confident people that I've come across in my life, is their ability to be patient and listen before you speak. Thomas Shelby is never in a hurry to wrap up a conversation, and he always has a clear, sober expression on his face, listening attentively. So when you do speak, you have all the information and you could say something worthy and applicable. Plato said it best. You may have heard this. Quote, "Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something." So have to say something. Well, that is what a fool does. And that would be the cockiness side, right? But on the other hand, by listening attentively, you will have something to say, not just saying it for the sake of saying it and being loud and getting attention, right? That could also be somewhat of a more narcissistic trait. And never be in a rush to wrap things up. I've applied this quite a bit myself. And it helps because you learn more, which is always the goal, right? To not be over your head thinking that you know everything. But then it does show some level of confidence. When it comes to confidence, the philosophical ideology, I would say, of Stoicism, practicing Stoicism, is one of the main things that Thomas Shelby also does very well. And a pillar of Stoicism is really separating what we can control and what we can't control. And so this practice and understanding, I think, will help you tenfold in controlling your emotions and being confident, which we'll get into in a little bit, and then just not losing it like Arthur Shelby did in that opening quote that I grasped from the scene in Peaky Blinders. Not losing your emotions and your control over these things, and then focusing on things that you can control. And so with practicing Stoicism, being calm under pressure, I think this could be universally agreed upon when you see an individual who is really calm in an intense situation. My goodness, that is projecting confidence like no other, that this doesn't faze them, right? And I could assume this takes practice. Like I said, when I was young, I had no confidence, but over time, the thing that I did most was play basketball. So I became comfortable with it. It was much easier to be confident. So practice does make perfect. So when we go over these little tips and tactics of confidence, just practice it on anyone and everyone. When someone is talking, shut the fuck up, listen, and then respond accordingly. And then when it comes to high pressure situations, sometimes I understand it's unpredictable. You don't really know exactly how you are going to behave or react in the most intense situations, right? But you can practice just trying to be calm. And when things are stressful in your life, like breathing techniques and just understanding and trying to classify what you can control and what you can't control. For me, this has helped tremendously, especially through all the recent ups and downs. But, ever since I got out of college, or even during college, I just really started to try to control my emotions a bit more. And assisting with that is just really identifying and understanding what can I control, what can I not control. Okay? And so why does this stoic tactic of remaining calm under pressure that Thomas Shelby does throughout the show, well, it makes him very unpredictable. And it's intimidating, right? You don't really know what's going on. He closes the door on other people being able to read his feelings and his behavior, his emotional behavior. It's always suppressed. And this helps tenfold throughout the series because he deals with really high profile, dangerous, confident gangsters and people that just want to take him down. So it's very important that he keeps this hidden. It gives him a psychological advantage. And he obviously thinks thoroughly about all of his next moves. He is literally playing chess all the time, which I think is really, really cool and neat. But at the end of the day, it is not revealing what you know and what you are thinking. Okay? So overall, it's about building this calm, unshakable character, especially when things go wrong or unexpectedly. Practice makes perfect. Some other things that I've noticed too that I think can tie into your confidence. we need a little bit of external stimulus sometimes. I think the way his family looks up to him and treats him, it just further builds him and his self-image, his self-worth, and obviously his confidence. But the main thing is that he is a man of his word. And so being a man of your word, it makes you feel good that what you say, you do. And then other people really do gravitate towards that. And you see that throughout the show. There are obviously some times where, he might slip up, where people hate him and whatnot. But for the most part, being a man of your word, I think this is something that you can do personally on an internal level that can help boost your confidence. And it's no different than just writing your goals throughout the day, or writing your goals in the beginning of the day and then accomplishing them throughout the day. It builds you up. It makes you feel good. And then the more often you do it, you become more confident. I can apply this to my basketball example. Little by little as a kid, the more I dribbled, the more I shot and made baskets, I got more and more familiar with it, and everything started to become more and more possible. And once you have the image of possibility in your mind, you're much more likely to stride towards it. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to boast and talk about it. My dad said it best when I was younger, like, Travis, if you are good, you don't have to say that you're good. People will tell you. And so I think that's pretty damn important. And, people are going to take you seriously if you are a man of your word and do things that you say you're going to do. Okay? And so as we move forward here, as I mentioned, when things really hit the fan, Thomas Shelby was always comfortable with confrontation. And over time, he kept finding himself in these difficult situations, and he applies all those things by remaining calm, staying silent, right? And he always has control of the frame. So people are going to always challenge you in one way or another. If you do find yourself creeping up some type of power dynamic socially in business or at work or whatever, find the ability to control the frame. Don't let people, dictate your attention and your intentions, right? And so being confident in that sense, we see this throughout the show. Thomas Shelby, he is always presented with different characters trying to knock him off of his high horse, right? There's one with Abigail Gold where he was being very disrespectful in the yard to one of his family members, and he wanted to buy his property, and he was being disrespectful. And then Thomas Shelby confronted him, calm, collected, and put him right in his place. Tell him, if I flip this coin, yeah, you can buy this yard if it lands heads, but if it lands tails, I'm going to fuck your daughter. And so he just really put this dangerous killer who was being disrespectful towards his uncle in his yard. And, he just always took the opportunity, like, I'm not going to let this man disrespect me in this environment. He controlled the frame using all the above, staying silent, speaking when he needed to, but then saying something profound enough to put this man in his place. And so we can apply this to many different situations. One other thing of confidence that, we can steal it from the Tony Robbins perspective. When you actually change your physical posture and your presentation, your physiology changes. So communicating confidence based off of your appearance is huge. And, when you look good and you look good to yourself in the mirror, you feel good. That really does project out to others. So good posture. Tommy always has wide stances and hand gestures. He's a short guy, but you wouldn't know. You can tell that he's there and he's powerful and he's making his presence known. He's always dressed in great suits, tight fitting, and just really clean cut. And so he has the appearance down quite nicely throughout the entire show. And even how he walks, his gait pattern and all of it. It's just a combo of all these things in his presentation, along with controlling the frame and knowing when to speak and being calm under pressure, that he really, really does give off the full display of confidence. And so why don't we apply this to our lives? I think it would help us a lot, no matter what sector or situation in life that we may be in. And I will move on to the next thing that I observed is the actual actions. So as I said earlier, that's the main difference between a confident person and a cocky person. We would rely much more on the confident person to get a job done rather than the cocky person who talks about it, right? The confident person just does it, right? There's no need for external reward. They don't have to tell him that he's good. He just kind of goes and does it. In this sense, it's problem solving. Tommy is always the problem solver within the family and the gang. He always finds a solution, and his confidence and ability to solve problems is beyond apparent. Again, of course, I know this is a show, but think about it. Your continuous ability to try and solve problems from all ranges, shapes, and sizes. The more often you do it over time, you will become familiar with this trait and become more confident in doing such actions, and the people around you will see this. But problem solving is a big, big thing, no matter what. We could take it all the way back to the Neanderthals and all throughout time. Individuals who had this incredible ability to problem solve in a confident manner, they got respect and they reaped the benefits of being such a person to be looked up to. And it doesn't mean that Thomas Shelby is never wrong. It doesn't mean he's putting on a facade or an act. Just throughout the show, he was just deeply confident in what he was doing. And in a sense, that's where I can say narcissism could kind of come into play, and why CEOs, CFOs, and leaders of the world have narcissistic and psychopathic traits. This makes sense because Thomas, no matter what, he kind of put his opinion and his thoughts and his problem solving above his family, like Arthur and many of his other family members. And so this was something that he did do. And in the end, it did make the family quite prosperous. He did become very successful within the show. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean he was always correct. But I would say about 95% of the time, he was definitely confident in his problem solving, etc. One other physical presentation note, and something that I think we can all get on board with, is holding eye contact. And in specific ways too, especially during conflict. When you gaze off during a confrontation, it can show that you've been beat or that you're lying or there's something to hide. It's exactly like a tell in poker. And so maintaining eye contact, it keeps you in control. And you could practice this with anybody. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than talking to somebody who just really can't keep eye contact with me or engage in a conversation. It drives me crazy because I feel like I'm wasting my time and I don't really know if they are absorbing everything that I'm saying, and then I feel taken advantage of because I'm giving my full and utmost attention. So I hold eye contact as much as possible. However, there is times where you don't have to hold eye contact all the time. It's about being purposeful with it. So again, we have to come across this practice, right? You can break eye contact if you are trying to de-escalate things. If things are confrontational and you're trying to de-escalate and simmer things down, you can hold eye contact to show you're not intimidated. But if you want to de-escalate without signaling fear or discomfort, hold it 3 to 5 seconds, and then you can break to the side. We see this a lot in plenty of shows. I see this a lot in person. You don't really want to break down looking down as if you're defeated, but a quick glance to the side and then recoup of where the eye contact is. You find a lot of control, and this is within yourself. Whether or not the other person believes that you're confident, that might be a different story. But deep within yourself, if you maintain this little strategy, I think regardless, people will take you much more seriously if you hold eye contact. It shows no fear, okay? And then as we're wrapping it up here, I just can't believe we've been ranting for almost 20 minutes already, is to be honest. And so like I said, the man of your word. This can tie in as well, but it's to be honest even when things go against your best interests. It's a concrete lesson that hopefully is never as intense as Peaky Blinder scenes, but the takeaway from this one is don't apologize just to avoid conflict. We can see this a lot in relationships, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you never apologize. That's not what I'm saying. If you've done something wrong, it's important that you acknowledge it, right? But if you aren't sorry, don't say it. In dating or relationships, this always comes back to bite you in the ass later on in the relationship. They walk all over you, right? It doesn't matter who it is. The ability to be honest, even when things go against your best interests, I think this really screams self-confidence, because you're basically saying whatever the consequences may be of my honesty, I know I will be okay. Okay, we're not here to be to fake being okay, but we're here to develop and cultivate a genuine, strong, deep internal confidence within yourself. And I think people gravitate towards this. I would rather be around a bunch of people who are confident than a bunch of cocky, insecure people. That's just me. And the whole reason I'm doing this damn episode is maybe there's some type of takeaways like, oh, okay, can I consciously think to myself, like, how often do I hold eye contact? How often do I rush a conversation? How quick am I to get something out rather than listening, absorbing, and then saying something a bit more meaningful? What is my posture like? What is my physiology and my presentation? Right? These things do come across my mind quite a bit. And Thomas Shelby really does check off all of this stuff, hence his fictional character. But, you know, I think it's stuff that could definitely be applied. And I think deep down, if people really do take these things and apply them in their life, I think it makes everything a bit better around us. And in a social setting, business setting, what have you, romantic settings, I want people to be confident. And I do continue on my path of confidence, and I think that is right now my settling of what's in between that golden mean between narcissism and egoism. I know it's not a mental disorder, but for the most part, I think having a healthy level of self-esteem really does make everything better for everybody on a relative plane. Hopefully you did not grab a pillow and fall asleep. I just really ranted off shit today. Go watch the show Peaky Blinders and tell me what you think. Thomas Shelby is one of my favorite characters in there, along with Mr. Solomon's Tom Hardy. Hilarious. The whole thing is just a brilliant show. And I think there's a lot of takeaways in regards to how we can apply these little tips that I listed off today in our daily lives, revolving around genuine confidence. So please, as always, like, share, subscribe, all that shit. And thank you for tuning in to the Travis Masterbone podcast. And I look forward to you listening next time. Farewell.